You're listening to the Comic Crusaders Podcast. I am your host, Al Mega, CEO of Comic Crusaders and Undercover Capes. In this show, I'm sitting down with creators from all walks of life to talk about inspiration, process, the lessons they've learned, and a whole lot more. What up, everybody? It's your boy, Al Mega. Welcome to a brand new Comic Crusaders Podcast. And folks, I got a show for you today. What? I got an amazing individual here. He is an associate professor of psychology at Farmingdale State College, right? And along with his colleague, Dr. Gordon Schmidt, they actually wrote a book you could get right now, folks, on Amazon, right? That's about leadership in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. It is called Leaders Assemble, Leadership in the MCU. And let me tell you, the way this book is broken down, I mean, you think you can like just a generalization. Oh, no. He breaks down like leadership themes throughout the films, whether you're a team member, an individual, or, you know, within the team, who has the right and could take the lead at that point in time. I mean, how do you even identify that? Because all of this, you know what I mean, this is about life, you know, even though you don't consider yourself a leader, even as he states here, we all are leading in some way, shape, or form. So let me bring on the big homie himself, the Superman himself from the colleges, about to put on the world to how comic geekiness teaches you leadership. The one, the only, Islam. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you, Al? That is, you know, I got to record that, and I have to do that at the beginning of any class just so I can get the class really pumped up. That's a great intro. Thank you.
I wish I had a crowd in the back. Go, Sai. For real,
there we go.
Thank you, brother, for doing this wonderful book. I had the pleasure of perusing, you know, something of the book a little bit, and seeing how the book is broken up, and you know the themes behind it, and the ideas and concepts. You know, a shout out to you and Gordon for putting it together, because I think this is something very special that not just comic fans will enjoy, but you know, business leaders finding a fun way. You know, I'm calm, man. I know every CEO is watching a Marvel movie, even though they deny it.
You can learn, you know, it's the culture, right? It's such a weird thing because when I was a kid growing up, I was a geek from like 6 or 7 years old, reading comic books, getting them actually on spinner racks, which don't really exist anymore. I don't know if you ever missed that. Like,
please don't tell me you had that mystical 7-Eleven with a spinner rack. Everybody telling me of the 7-Eleven. I never had a 7-Eleven with a spinner rack, so I have no idea of that spinner. I have no newsstand spinner racks.
Mine wasn't a 7-Eleven. Mine was actually a newsstand. There was like a little card shop in town, and my dad would like tell me like, hey, if you get good grades, I'll get you comics. And he started losing money because I was like, all right, if I'm gonna get comics for good grades, I'm just gonna keep knocking out good grades. And
was there tears? Was there tears that A means 5 books or B means 3 books, you know, and F means no books?
So I come from a strong line of Asian dads. So no, it was like, look, you get A and you get something. Anything below that, you get nothing. So you know,
wow.
I don't know if you've ever seen that meme with like the Asian dad where, you know, B, why not A? Or, you know, 99, why not 100? That's definitely my dad. So
well, listen, I grew up. I had a lot of Asian friends. Trust you me, I know. And again, you know, some Latino parents, it's tough. You know, what you mean? You mean you got a B? What you mean? I mean I'm the best. No, I want A for astounding. I'm like, oh shit, you knew that word, Dad? No.
That's right. I mean, they're pushing you. It's like immigrant parents, you know, that's what they knew. And especially for you know, my parents, they only made it to this country because of education. So that was all they knew. You know, my father grew up without his own dad. He lost his father at my grandfather at 4 years old, we were originally from Bangladesh. So my parents, my dad specifically, ended up getting a scholarship. He went to the University of Nottingham in the UK, did his PhD there in biochem, and then ended up moving from there to Madison, Wisconsin. So going, you know, as far from you know, tropical landscape as you possibly can. But the only thing that got him there was education, was working hard and studying. So
what? Okay, I need to know this. We're getting into the origin story where you're from then slowly, but out of all places in the United States, I mean, New York, Cali, Florida, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
He chose Wisconsin.
He didn't choose it. So
Oh,
he
he did.
applied for jobs. He applied for like
Okay.
postdocs. He, traveled from. He got this what's called a postdoc, where you work in a university in a
Oh,
lab until you get a real job. So he ended up coming to New York initially. My parents and my brother stayed in a YMCA for about a week
wow.
until they could go to probably for a little bit longer than probably about a month or so before they got to Wisconsin. And then, they have all these pictures of them in Wisconsin just covered in snow. And,
You're like, what the hell am I getting into?
yeah, yeah. I mean, there is some snow in South Asia, but it's really, like up in the mountains. You don't see it, in the Delta, which is where Bangladesh is. It's, more, the weather is more like Louisiana than it is
Ooh,
anything
I
else.
got you.
Yeah.
Got some good
So
weather, kiddo. What?
Yep, yep. So big, they're used to monsoons, but not, snowstorms. So
Well, goddamn. You know what? I'd rather have a snowstorm than a monsoon, bro. I think. I don't. I
it's
can't,
true.
bro. Don't mess with me, bro. That's some scary. Nature is very scary, folks. So did you grow up in Wisconsin, or was
I
there
did
more
not.
movement after that?
I did not. So after Wisconsin, my parents moved to New Jersey. I was born in New Jersey.
And wait,
You know,
Did your parents kind of go together to Wisconsin or met
they
in
did.
Wisconsin?
No,
Okay.
they went together. My parents are childhood sweethearts, so they're
Oh, hey, look at
yeah. So
that.
they've been together a really really long time. So
Look at the
they
romance there.
they went to the UK. My dad went to the UK first, and then brought my mom along, and then they went to Wisconsin together, and then they ended up moving to New Jersey, which is where I grew up. I grew up in Edison, New Jersey. So
Edison. Hey.
they actually moved to Edison. Edison is now known as like a hub of like South Asian, meaning Bangladeshi, Pakistani, Indian people. When we were living there, when my parents moved in, it was still there weren't that many brown people around. It was still
Oh, brother.
and then they opened the floodgates, I guess. I don't know.
Bro, you're not lying. Because when I was a kid growing up in
Mm,
Greenpoint,
mm,
one day my friends got in trouble.
mm,
And I went to the precinct and I was making a big hubbub in the precinct being loud.
mm,
I was kind of militant back then,
mm,
if you will. And you know, and I'm saying what I'm saying. And one of the cops said, made some comment about, I wish people never came here. I said, oh, this is why y'all mad because we're taking over. He
mm.
goes, that's the problem. I'm like, oh, where? He goes, you know what, guy? You got 5 minutes to leave. Or now you're gonna be locked up with your boys. I said, you look, I gotta
Wow.
work tomorrow, officer.
Wow. Usually people don't say it that openly,
Oh no,
but
no, he said it in the precinct. He wasn't outside,
wow.
so I'm on his turf, and
Mm,
it's like
mm.
I'm outnumbered. What can little old Al Mega do? So
Yeah.
and like you said, being brown even in the '90s was dangerous. So it's like, okay,
Mm,
let me not push buttons further. My friends are okay.
mm.
Their parents got lawyers real quick.
Yeah. Yeah. That's and that you saw that a lot growing up. It still hasn't changed a whole lot,
No,
but
it's only gotten
you
worse
know,
now because now,
mm,
at least back then, they used to frisk me. Now they shoot you first, apparently.
oh man, yep,
No,
yep. You got to be careful.
yeah. At least back then,
Absolutely.
not that that's
Uh,
excusable because I was getting frisked
mm,
every weekend. Side. I mean, did
mm.
you grow up in New York?
I didn't. I grew up in New Jersey where
I
we
mean,
didn't have
in
as much.
Jersey. Well, I
In
mean, Edison, New
mm,
Jersey. You're
yeah,
next door. I mean,
mm,
carjacking. All that.
yeah.
Out of that part, Edison and other
Mm.
parts like Hoboken, Hackensack too.
Yeah, the greater crime areas were probably around Newark, like Elizabeth,
And
which was a
Newark
little
too.
north
Yep.
of us, and in New Brunswick, where I went to college. I went to Rutgers University. There was definitely police presence there, especially if you were a college kid. You had to be a little careful about the cops. Friday, Saturday
Just a
nights,
tad.
even.
Just a tad.
Yeah, yeah. You just had to know where you needed to be,
Yeah.
so, to avoid that kind of thing.
And just put your
So
head down. You're sitting, kind of like, all right, this is I ain't doing nothing, officer.
that,
Don't
that's
don't
right.
don't look at him in the. It's like jailhouse rules, right? Don't look at him in the eye. Just
Yep. Yep.
hey, go ahead, officer. Yeah, yeah.
Yep, absolutely.
All right.
So,
So growing up, what was that fandom like? Because you're in
mhm,
Jersey. So how did you grow up there with the fandom?
mhm,
What was that first taste of it? Honestly, what was the
mhm.
first one that you remember falling in love with? And did
Uh,
you ever find the tribe?
So the fandom started with my brother, he's much older than I am. He's about 12 years older than me, and he had a huge box of comics. And he and my parents were trying to get me to read more, and they were like, "Oh, maybe he'll like these. Your brother likes them. Maybe you'll like them." And I remember the first book I read was Mighty Thor. I want to say number 138 has a picture of the gray gargoyle on the cover, old John Buscema cover, and it was really. I thought that was pretty good. I was like, oh, this is really interesting. I like this. This is kind of fun. And I think I've always loved Thor because he was like my gateway into a lot of those, into a lot of those characters.
Yeah.
And growing up, I had a couple of friends that were really into comic books. Some of my other Bangladeshi American friends were really into comic books. A couple of friends in school were really into it. And I used to do a lot of bargain bin shopping at a local flea market. I don't know if anybody even remembers that flea market, thing where you would go and you would just discover stuff.
Bro,
I bought a bunch of like Jack Kirby Black Panthers for like under $10. It was like almost his entire run. Yeah.
What?
Yeah, the person selling them had no idea. They was like, "Oh, these were in my
the good old days, bro."
Yeah.
I used to have flea markets on the hood with it because it wasn't called a block party because it was with the intent of people to sell, get rid of their shit. Let me tell you, they used to have people selling Gold Key comics, old school Marvel comics, and I mean for 10 cents. So Mommy, let me get $1. I could get 10 books,
Wow.
And I mean, I wish I kept all of that stuff. Damn it.
Yeah, I was not a collector until like the 90s, and like all my old comics I beat up because I did what you're not supposed to do with those comics. I read them. I read them, reread them.
You could read them, which is fine, but please don't tell me you were one of those cats that would roll it up and put it in his back pocket.
No.
Okay, okay. You're not that disrespectful. Okay.
No, I put them into my book bag, and they got beat up that way. And
darn textbooks.
Yeah,
they were so big and heavy back then, smooshing out paper covers like that.
Yep, the paper bag covers, and they just got smushed. And and I remember now that I'm talking about this, I remember there used to be a huge flea market in New Jersey on Route 1. There's a big movie theater there now called the AMC, Route 1 in New Brunswick, and that used to be a giant flea market. And you could go there, you could get a ton of different books. Actually, if you watch the movie Mallrats, I'm pretty sure you get Kevin Smith takes you to that flea market. And I used to go to that flea market, and you would be like, wow, you could get all sorts of very cheap comic books. And it was great. It was a really fun thing. I would ruin my mom's attempts to get like really good deals on clothes by being like, hey, I'm going to go to this comic book store. I'm going to take $5 and come back with like 20 issues of something. So it was a lot of fun. And, back then it wasn't, it's really interesting watching fandom now because I don't know if you feel this way, but like when I was younger, being a comic book fan was like, it wasn't cool at all. Nobody talked to you about like, being a Marvel person or DC person or anything like that. It was all like, oh, you're a nerd, you're this, you're that.
It had to be a specific clique, if you will, of people that you could speak to. Otherwise, unlike nowadays, no, everyone nowadays is a damn comic book fan. Everyone.
Yeah. I mean, we have an Ant-Man
like you said,
movie,
bro.
right?
Ant-Man, right?
I mean, if
I enjoyed it though. I like that one.
I like that movie a lot. And if you told me as a kid, like, oh, there's going to be a good Ant-Man movie, I would have looked at you and said, you're out of your mind, because we couldn't even get like a good we couldn't get Spider-Man.
Bro, we couldn't get Fantastic Four right back in the Roger Corman.
Yeah, whatever.
Like, yo, Mr. Fantastic ain't so flexible. What's wrong with him, bro?
Yeah. What's going on with him, right? And you couldn't even, you couldn't imagine getting those movies off the ground. So this is, now I'm watching the fans and I'm kind of seeing the conversation, and I'm just grateful for really good comics and really good movies, right?
Preach, bro. We're in the golden age of this awesomeness of comic book film and TV. And the whole thing is that it's not just a specific brand, but across the spectrum. Because we get Marvel, DC, Valiant with Bloodshot, right?
Yeah.
We got independent projects. I mean, come on, yo. It's a wonderful time to be a nerd.
Yeah, and there are things that I didn't even realize are based in comics that sometimes end up being based in comics. There's
Oh,
there's like the David Cronenberg movie with Viggo Mortensen a few years ago, History of Violence.
oh
I
yeah,
watched the
based on the
movie,
book.
right, and then I was like, oh, this is a comic, and then I read the comic. I was like, how did that? Usually it's the other
Yeah.
way around, but
Even that recent J Lo movie, I think
mhm.
Owen Wilson, right?
Uh-huh.
That's based on a web comic.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Wow.
but and then this lady was trying to talk about allegedly, oh, this is based on my own life. No, it's not. It's based on a web comic. Like, stop
That's
lying, lady.
yeah.
Yeah, but it's surprising sometimes. Even what was the other one? The one with Tom Hanks, the mafia, or Road to Perdition. That
Road
was
to
a graphic
Perdition. Yeah.
novel.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So again, you see these very non-traditional things, and you're like, "Oh, this was like a cool movie," and then you find out it's a graphic novel. What?
Yeah.
What?
How did that happen?
It's amazing. All right, so now let's start talking about then your journey beyond the comics. Then I mean, so
Mhm.
you're this kid being a comic fan.
Yeah.
You have an Asian dad that's telling you, "Better be a or nothing, kiddo."
Yep.
And so did that mold you to go into the direction of going into psychology and stuff like that? Like, what
So
kind of led that?
that was not the plan at all. So when I was in high
Whoa,
school, yeah, when I was in high school and
you took a
college, and
hard left,
hopefully this is
folks.
something that, like, if you have younger listeners or parents of like teenagers, hopefully this helps them. But I thought it was going to be a South Asian stereotype. I thought I was going to go to medical school. My older brother's a doctor. Just to give you a sense, I have a lot of doctors in the family, really leading into that particular stereotype. And I was in college. I was a bio major. I did an internship in at a hospital, and I hated it. I was like, this sucks. I don't like that. This is not like the ER TV show at all. I don't like this. This is not the vibe that I thought I was gonna have. And I looked around. I was like, what else can I do? And at the time, I was minoring in economics. So I decided, the only reason I'm majoring in bio is so that I can go to medical school. If that's not in the cards, I'm switching majors. I'm going to take an extra year in college and figure out what I'm going to do. So I graduated with a degree in economics, and ended up working at an educational company that did test preparation, called Kaplan. Pretty
Okay, I
well
know
known
Kaplan.
in
Yeah,
the Northeast. And
yeah.
and I started doing stuff that was kind of related to human resources. So I was doing a lot of recruitment, a lot of training, a lot of hiring. And I was like, oh, I kind of like this. And I decided that, I did that for a couple of years. I was like, okay, maybe I'll go back for my MBA. And I decided to do an MBA in human resource management. And my first class in my MBA program was a class called Organizational Behavior, taught by a gentleman who had a degree in industrial organizational psychology. And I really liked that organizational behavior class. I was like, this really fits. I love this. This is cool. I like thinking about how organizations, teams, and individuals kind of work better together. And I asked him, like, hey, what do you think I should do? Because I'd really like this. I'm kind of enjoying the MBA stuff, but this seems to be a bigger passion. And he said, you're already in the MBA program. Why don't you also do a master's in industrial organizational psychology? And I thought to myself, I didn't know any better. So I was like, sure, I'm doing one master's. Why not two?
Oh
That makes sense.
damn, bro.
You know,
That's
which if anybody asks me, don't do two master's degrees. Just do one. That's
bro.
enough.
But
Uh,
is that why the tips are turning white now, bro?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's definitely why. So I did this master's in industrial organizational psychology, and I really loved that. I loved the field. That's a field about the psychology of work, figuring out how to make people, more effective in the workplace, lead more effectively, manage teams more effectively. And I said, I really like this. I really want to take this all the way. So let me do a PhD. And so I applied to do a PhD at Hofstra University, and that's
Okay.
how I ended up in Long Island. I finished my PhD in 2012, and then
Woo!
ended up getting a job as an assistant professor at the time at Farmingdale State College. And I've
Epa.
been here ever since, and really enjoyed it. So
What?
very little planning. I don't, with my students, I don't tell them to go through the same process that I did. I'm very careful to tell them, like, hey, you should plan things out
Let's
because
organize this a little bit, right?
yeah,
No
you
pun
should
intended.
think about it a little bit more. Put more thought into it than I did, because I kind of like really was set in one path and then ended up
But you know what?
switching up.
I think that that's just how it is.
Mhm.
I was supposed to be on this path of being a media personality or a journalist
Mm-hmm.
since high school, apparently.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't listen to it,
Mm-hmm.
and then come full circle,
Mm-hmm.
20 odd years plus later, and then like here I am being the media personality journalist that my dean at the time told me
Mm-hmm.
I should have been doing because I worked in the high school I was going to in Brooklyn. It was a vocational high school that had the cooperative education program. Work 1 week,
Mm-hmm.
go to school 1 week, and obviously in order for you to make up credits, you have to write reports. She
Mm-hmm.
loved my reports. She goes, "Oh my God, you're the only person in this whole grade that writes to the point. You don't go circles. You're not
Mm-hmm.
trying to entertain me. These are the effing facts." This is how she told me. These are just the effing facts, and you get it done.
Uh-huh.
You need to be a journalist, Alex. You need to be a journalist.
Mm-hmm.
That's what she told me. Trust you me. That's what you need to do. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I hardly ever pick up the pen, but I'm starting to get the itch again. Like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of things I want to start saying. When I see
Mm-hmm.
people like you sharing what you've learned, via those organizational stuff, and me just perusing that first chapter, it's like, damn, I really need to read this. I mean, not just because I'm a comic fan, but the key points there.
Mm-hmm.
So, talk about the early origins of this amazing book. I mean, folks, look. First of all, look at the dope presentation. Look at this sexy cover. I'm gonna bring it up right now. Look at that, folks. Oof, ooh, and that's what I love. Exploring effective leadership, and I think that's the key word there. Effective,
Mm-hmm.
because you could explore leadership any which way, sure, but not every leader is an effective
Mm-hmm.
leader. So
Yeah.
let's talk about that journey and you finding those
Mm-hmm.
effective bullet points, if you will, not just through
Uh-huh.
your own personal journey, but
Mm-hmm.
how you find them in the
Mm-hmm.
MCU.
So the way this started is my friend Gordon Schmidt. He's my co-author on this. He's a
Salute,
professor.
Gordon! Woo! Dr. Schmidt, you rock,
Yeah.
kiddo. Good job.
Yeah. He actually just started a new job at the University of Louisiana in Monroe.
He left
Monroe,
you?
Louisiana. No, so we're at two. We've always been at two different universities. So he
okay,
was at Purdue University Fort Wayne. Now he's moved down to University of Louisiana Monroe. And he and I are huge nerds, and so we were always just talking to each other about Star Wars stuff, Marvel stuff, Star Trek, whatever. And then we heard about this book series from Emerald Publishing called Exploring Effective Leadership Practices Through Pop Culture. And we submitted a proposal to them. They'd already had a book about Star Wars. They had a book about Lord of the Rings talking about leadership. And we thought,
you mean this website right here that has your book right there, number one?
Yeah, absolutely.
Right,
yeah, beautiful. So they have all of these. So not just, Marvel stuff, but if you're into Harry Potter, which is what my wife loves, she loves Harry Potter. If you're into Lord of the Rings or if you're into Star Wars, we got you covered. Our book is Marvel because that's what we really love. And we were just thinking the Marvel Cinematic Universe is like the number one pop culture thing that's out there now. And it's really cool to be able to talk about this stuff in this context. And it really fits in well with how I think comic book fans and Marvel Cinematic Universe fans, how they talk about things. Because, we always had those debates as kids, who's stronger? Hulk,
who's smarter,
Thor, right?
Who's faster?
Yeah,
right. Who would be a better leader?
And
so many things.
Yeah. So I remember Gordon and I had this conversation about specifically the Avengers from the comics. Who did we think was like the best leader? And we actually both really love. I don't know if you remember Photon or Captain Marvel.
Of course, I know Photon. Absolutely.
So, she was such a good Avengers leader. I mean, not to take anything away from Cap, not to take anything away from Iron Man, but we really loved those stories with her as a leader. We're like, she was great, and I'm excited to see her.
And it was a time that you see a diverse character, both colored and female, being the lead of like Marvel's, A-list prime team. I mean, not back then, though. I mean, I think Avengers in that era was probably second place to X-Men.
Yep. And X-Men started that too with Storm, right? Storm being a leader, is huge at that time. Yeah. And, I've actually always been drawn to a lot of those characters that come from those different backgrounds, mostly because when I was growing up, I didn't really see characters that look like me. and the characters that are really gravitated towards,
Jimmy Bucket.
those Black Panther issues, those Jack Kirby Black Panther issues are so important to me because he, despite not being from that background, he took that character seriously. He took the setting seriously, and he wrote like a great adventure comic. He wrote a really honorable character, and you were like, yeah, this guy is awesome. And that made it so much more fun when he came back in the 90s.
That's what happens when you have a creator that's from a diverse place that is aware of his surroundings versus creators that aren't. You know, so Kirby was very, present in the moment, understanding, okay, this is my surroundings, so why shouldn't it be in the book? Same thing, with Don McGregor back then that also wrote Black Panther, and he was very aware of the political climate then, and made sure that that book had that focus. I mean, come on, he got fired because he put Black Panther versus the KKK. And Don McGregor's answer tomorrow was, well, you asked me to put more white people. I was like, oh no, this is coming from Don's mouth. That's what he told me. And when I spoke to Don, he made me laugh with that. He's like, yeah, they canned me for that. I'm like, what?
Hey, that's what you wanted to see, though. You really wanted to see that. And then it was great when Christopher Priest wrote Black Panther, and he did like just wild stuff, like destabilizing the economy of the entire Marvel universe. I was like, that's incredible, right? Like that's power, right? That's
son.
That's somebody, that's somebody even Dr. Doom has to respect, right? Like,
Dr. Doom will take off his mask. Hold on, homie, you gotta see my face on this one. It's like, yo, good shit, damn. Of course, that's a gangster place, son. You see, folks, you see what I'm saying here? This is what I mean about Sai. He is a fan, and he's really writing from that both psychological and fan perspective, so you could see these. So talk about how you started like putting it together with big homie Schmidt over here, man.
So the way Gordon and I did it was we kind of broke up the chapters into different topics that we really wanted to talk about. So I wrote a couple of chapters about Black Panther. Gordon wrote a chapter about Iron Man and being an authentic leader. I also wrote a little bit about Captain America being a servant leader. So what we did was
wait a minute. Oh my God. I wanted to bypass that comment. Okay. A servant leader. What does that mean?
So a servant leader, this is actually a very popular leadership theory. A servant leader is somebody whose main focus as a leader is to kind of help their followers or their subordinates do the work in front of them. So their job is to serve them so that they can get things done. Because we know that, leaders that aren't as good or aren't as effective, a lot of times they take on the work and they say, look, I don't need you to do it. I'm going to do it myself. And that's really a bad leader, right? The leader needs to be able to get their team, get their folks together and say, hey, I'm going to accomplish X, Y, or Z, and they're going to do it. And Cap is really a great example of this because he's always doing things to make sure that his team is effective, that they're able to do what they need to do. So in the movies, you see when even before he becomes Captain America, Steve Rogers jumps on the grenade, right? He's going to put himself on the line to do that. When you see him with the Howling Commandos in the bar, he knows that the Howling Commandos are going to be his team. He buys them all a round of drinks, even though he himself doesn't really partake. Right, both because he physically cannot get drunk and because he never really seemed like a big drinker, even before
if you can't get drunk, why waste a good bottle of stuff? Come on.
Leave
it for us weed people.
That's a good question. I wonder if Captain America can get high in the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Well, the way okay, if you think about Flash, and Flash is a character with a fast metabolism. I mean, some scientists had concocted something that he got drunk for 1 minute. That's it. And he's like, okay, all right. And then he was like, okay, that's being drunk. But maybe there needs to be something out there in the MCU that equate that. It's like, okay, Cap, I know you can't get fucked up, but maybe I could get you messed up for 60 seconds. Try this.
Yeah, even his hangovers don't last that long. There we go. That's a true superhuman.
Bro, I wish I had that power sometimes. Oof.
There we go. Yeah. So, but this is really, when we were watching these movies again, we really saw so much happening in terms of leadership, in terms of how we thought about leadership. And a lot of times, when we talk to people, when I talk to, organizations or companies or even individuals about leadership, a lot of times people get caught up in this idea that you need a title, right? That you need to have the title CEO or manager or something like that. And in our book, what we really want people to realize is that leadership is about influence. You can have influence in all sorts of ways. And we can see in the Marvel Cinematic Universe that people who aren't really seen as leaders, they can lead, right? So in Spider-Man No Way Home, Peter Parker, the youngest of the Peter Parkers, is able to lead because he's got some experience on a team. He's able to explain to Tobey Maguire and to Andrew Garfield,
Tell me what the hell is an Avengers?
Like what are Avengers? How do we work together? He's able to concoct that plan, but it's not because he has the title that I'm Spider-Man. They're also Spider-Man. He has the knowledge, the expertise, and so they're able to defer to him and say like, "Hey, great." So that's all part of that influence process. And so you can have a title, you could be, a manager, and we've all had bosses before that we never listened to because they didn't have that ability to influence.
Yeah, you don't know what you're talking about. Yeah. I mean, we've all been there as a fact. Now, I'm gonna guess here that one of the chapters you did in the book was the second chapter, because they are talking about Wakanda and Asgard and leaders' influence, transition, succession planning, navigation. I mean, where did you pick the tidbits up front, man? Where? Give me some teasers here.
Of course. So, big thing in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but and also in the comics is who's going to lead Wakanda, who's going to be the Black Panther. And so this is really important in organizations because you have succession planning processes too in big companies. That somebody's not going to be the manager or the leader there forever, right? So as a for example, as like a Yankees fan growing up, everybody was like, who's going to take over after Joe Torre, right? Who can lead the Yankees to other
who could be as magical as Big Joe, man?
Yeah, exactly.
I'm a Yankee fan, but come on, bro.
There we go. I had a feeling. Right?
Salute to my big homie Joe, man.
There we go. Yeah, I'm Torre.
You see the hat right there, so that's why.
That's right. Yeah. So phenomenal leader. So you have to ask yourself, how do you do that? And so in Black Panther, this is a great way of kind of illustrating what makes those processes so important. Is they have a set process, they have an idea in mind, but sometimes those processes can be hijacked because Killmonger, he challenges T'Challa and he ends up winning. He ends up being a leader. And after that movie came out, there was a lot of discussion about Killmonger being like, oh, he's right in a lot of ways. His idea is right. He knows that, Wakanda should be doing more. That becomes a big part of the movie. But the difference between him and T'Challa is that he's going to put himself before the nation, before the people. And that makes him, a terrible leader. Whereas T'Challa is able to, one of the big things that makes him a great leader and actually allows him to win this battle for leadership is he's able to take an enemy like M'Baku and turn him into an ally. And that's really one of the things that we see about great leaders is that they're able to get across the aisle. They're able to connect with people. They're able to say, hey, this is what makes me, a great leader. And this is, let's connect on something. Let's build something together. That really sets people apart from what you might imagine a great leader being. So even though somebody has a great idea, that doesn't necessarily mean you're the one that's going to lead everybody to accomplish that idea. You still have to have those leadership skills, those leadership capabilities. And usually across a lot of leadership theory, usually we think of two big things that leaders have to do. One is they've got to keep their team on task. They have to be able to divide up tasks, tell people, here's what you're going to do. That's something called role clarity. Like, oh, I need to know what my role is on this team. Can you clarify for me what I need to do? Good leader is able to do that. The second thing a leader is able to do, usually within most leadership theories, is they're able to maintain those relationships. They're able to maintain healthy relationships with the team. They establish what are called norms or unspoken rules. And those rules are what get enforced within the team. If they're unhealthy norms, the team doesn't function as well. So if you're, doing the right things, treating people correctly, you're going to reap the benefits of that as a leader. And we get to see a ton of those examples in the MCU.
Yeah, you're not lying there. Yeah, you treat your people good, they treat you good right back. That's a fact. But I think a lot of leaders are dealing with something nowadays, right? And it's in your sixth chapter.
Mhm,
Dealing with stress,
mhm,
crisis impact, mental states.
mhm.
Um, how does that affect our ability to be effective leaders, and what can we do to recognize when that's happening to circumvent any potential problems?
Yeah, absolutely. So one thing that good leaders have to do is they do need to recognize both the experience of stress that they're going through and the experience of stress that a lot of other their team members are going through. And you're hearing a lot about this now because of COVID. So for example, my wife works in a school, and schools are hotbeds of stress right now. Teachers are feeling stressed, administrators are feeling stressed. They're
Course.
just a
You
focal
can't
point.
talk a certain way, you can't say certain
Mhm.
things,
Yeah.
and there's, things going about in the world,
Hmm.
COVIDs, poxes, this and that.
Hmm.
My God,
Yeah.
gun violence. I
Yep.
mean, I think being a teacher is one of the most dangerous things nowadays. Almost as dangerous as
Yeah.
being a cop or a firefighter, I swear.
Yep. Yeah. And they're just a flashpoint for everything right now. And so as a leader, you kind of have to manage your own stress so that you know when to take a break, when to, give a task off to somebody else. But then you also have to watch for your own team members to make sure that they're not overworking themselves and that you're creating a space and an environment where they are able to get the rest that they need. We're seeing this a lot now in healthcare where they're literally they've been in this emergency situation for a really long time, and we're trying all sorts of techniques, all sorts of ways to kind of get more people into the healthcare system to support doctors and nurses as they go through this process because they're burning out. So we know that when people are overstressed, they experience something called burnout, and they go through all sorts of psychological processes like depersonalization where they're not connected to their work anymore. They feel isolated, they feel alone, and it impacts their work. And in many cases, it impacts not just the work, but also their health, their overall health. Your heart health is strongly associated with things like stress. And so there are tips in the book about kind of how to manage stress. We see a
Awesome.
great example of that with Tony Stark and Iron Man. He, one of his recurring themes across the movies is that he's got PTSD. He's got a lot of stress, and he never really knows how to manage it. In Iron Man 3, for example, he tries to build as many armors as he possibly can to try to protect himself, which is not really a healthy way to be. And so by the end of that movie, he's kind of decided like, hey, I'm not gonna worry about building up my armor. I'm just gonna try to be the best person I can be, try to
Hmm.
manage my stress. And so that's one of the big things that we see among leaders is that they kind of have to figure out what works for them in terms of stress. But leaders also, generally speaking, they're high achieving people. People that tend to become leaders, they're type A personalities. They may not know how to take the foot off the gas. So it's really important for them to recognize what experiences they're having in their own bodies, and then saying like, "Hey, I'm gonna take a break. I don't need to respond to that email right now. I'm gonna wait. I'm gonna
Yeah.
wait a few hours. I'm gonna wait another time, and I'm going to do it at
See,
this later time."
I think Post Malone said it best in his
Mhm.
line. I work so hard, I don't know how to vacation.
Yep. Yeah. That is actually, yeah, that's actually very true of workaholics. Somebody who like checks his work email on vacation.
Right.
I'm
Hey,
guilty of that.
babe,
I
give me a
know.
minute. Give me, or not even like they turn around for a minute. Like, oh shit, hold on, let me see what's going on. Right, and I hate that. I am very guilty of that behavior.
Yeah.
I can't help it.
Hmm.
I know I have a team, but I just love what I do so much.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? That
Yeah.
it's kind of hard for me to detach. But see, but I recognize that I need the break,
Hmm.
but it's about taking the break.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
It's
I
taking
haven't
the break.
chosen
Yeah.
that. And it's like, okay, every time I think I want to take it, then there's always a reason why I can't today.
Yeah. Yeah. So at least you've recognized that about yourself, and you can start to say, well, okay, I recognize that I need to take the time off. And one of the big things good leaders are able to do is they're able to structure work, right? You can delegate the task to somebody else if you have to, especially if you have a team that you trust.
Totally.
And if you feel confident that they can get the work done, you can have that away message and you can take a step back.
Oh, I know they
You know.
can. I'm more than happy.
Mhm.
I try very
Mhm.
hard on weekends to do. I can't be off of it but give me an hour or two just to just peruse, fix,
Mhm.
and then I'm happy for the rest of the day.
Mhm.
You know, but it's like I have to every day. My wife tells me this all the time. Like, does it have to be every day? It's just there's news every day. I'm
Mhm.
sorry. Just give me an hour. This is why I try to even wake up early sometimes and just do it
Mhm.
before the family's up, so it doesn't
Yeah.
interfere with their time.
Mhm.
Again, I don't know if that's an approach that you talk about, but just being able to divide that time, I think, is so very important. And that's
Well,
another thing.
yeah,
Go ahead.
it's very true. Like work-life balance is also really interesting for leaders, right? Work-life balance, we sometimes think that there's like this hard line between like, oh, I was at work and now I'm at home. But now during COVID,
Nah, bro.
everybody, when I'm working from home,
You're in both.
you're in both. You're just like, oh God, so you kind of have
Where's the
to,
line? Oh my god! Right?
yeah.
You go
But
crazy, son.
yeah, but I'm
Really?
glad you've got like a real time frame where you give yourself that limit when you say, okay, this is the hour, this is work
Oh
time,
yeah.
and then the other time
Oh
is
yeah.
family time or
On
personal time.
weekends, I put a
Yeah.
hard stop. Like,
Hmm.
okay, so wifey gets up. I said, okay, so when she's up, we're doing our thing. She's doing her thing to check up on things. So all right, so I'm gonna give myself X amount of time to do as much as I can. Once
Hmm.
that time comes, I stop,
Hmm.
and I'm done for the rest of the day. Guess whatever. It's your time. It's not my time
Yeah.
anymore. And then the next day I do the same thing.
Hmm.
And then
Yeah.
weekdays I go hardcore.
There you go. So as long as you find a balance that works for you, that really varies from person to person,
It does.
right? And it changes, right? Like I always, when I'm talking about this stuff in class, I tell my students like Drake has this line where he says 40 in the studio late night every night, and like
Oof.
that's
Yeah.
something that he loves, right? He wants to be in the studio all the time, and so it's not really a burden for him. So you have to find that balance for yourself.
Yeah, you do.
And especially as a leader, you have to kind of figure out what the balance is, not just for you, but also for your team, and kind of listen to them about what they're comfortable with.
I think having a family is what really helps me want to balance the time. Because if I was a single
Mhm.
man, I think there would be no balance.
It's funny you say that because I remember before I was married, before I had a kid, the way I used to work, I look back at that, I'm like, man, I cannot go back to that because I have too many other
It was wild
responsibilities.
stuff, right? It was wild
Yeah,
stuff.
it's a lot of stuff.
It's crazy, but again, this is why we've reached the goals we've reached thus far.
Mhm.
We put in that time when we had to put it. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? And now that we know how to manage the time, fantastic. Now, there's another thing here. People compliment me on being authentic in my passion and love for this.
Mhm.
So, how important is it to be authentic as a leader?
Mhm. So that's really interesting because authentic leadership is mostly about finding what works for you and kind of being true to yourself. Because a lot of times when people talk about leadership development and becoming a leader, they're really talking about, oh, here are the things you've got to do. You have to be like Elon Musk. You have to be like Steve Jobs. You have to be like so and so. And a lot of times those things are not really true. They're not applicable because Steve Jobs is a great leader, but even he wasn't always a great leader for Apple, right?
No.
They fired him, and it
Yeah,
was actually
this they
good that
did.
they yeah, it's actually good that they did because he wasn't the right leader at that time.
Yeah.
When he came back, he brought a different vision, different
He
idea.
came back reinvigorated.
Yeah,
Yes.
and he was the right leader for that moment. And so being authentic as a leader kind of means like, oh, I need to be myself, but also I have to be able to engage in those good leader behaviors. We see this also with Tony Stark, who, you know, he's kind of an ass. He's kind of like really jokey. He's in the beginning an Iron Man, he's sleeping around. He looks like he's got this great life, but he's really unhappy about a lot of things. And so because he's not really living the way that he wants to live, even though he's living a life that I think a lot of us will be like, wow, this is awesome. You're just hanging out, sleeping with whoever you want. That's not really what's making him happy. And it took this experience in Afghanistan to like change his attitude, change his perspective, change his view
To
about what
almost
he's living for.
die, like most people, right? They
Yep.
see the lights,
Yep.
their story in front
Yep.
of their face. Okay, I gotta change
Yeah.
my life, like right now.
Absolutely. And so much of like the story in the MCU is about Tony Stark learning how to be both himself but also being a great leader, right? Not necessarily a leader like Captain America, but the way that he sees himself leading, because he's great on those technical projects, right? You're never going to put Captain America on a technical project to produce something to defeat Ultron, but you put Banner and Tony Stark together, they'll come up with something together. They'll come up with a plan together. They'll have a way to manage that situation. And so Tony just had to kind of accept that about himself and then maximize what made him a great leader. And that's what we really want in authentic leadership, is really finding a way to be both yourself and then to highlight the things about you that make you a great leader.
All right. So you have another chapter here, which is the 10th chapter.
Mm-hmm.
A very hot topic, of course, in today's day and age, female leadership and how women could be relegated to supporting roles in both the MCU and real world to implicit theories of what a leader should look or act like.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, talk about that whole chapter here and how you see it within the MCU, and and kind of emphasize on it in the book.
So I'll mention something that Gordon and I discovered. Because as part of writing this book, we had to rewatch all the movies, right? And as we were rewatching the movies,
what a research project, honey, it's research.
This is actually very accurate to what happened in my home, where my wife is like, "Why the hell are you watching this movie?" And I'm like, "This is work." I've got a notebook in my lap, and I'm like, "This is work right now, honey."
I'm taking notes. I gotta rewind now.
Yeah, I gotta. I just missed something really important. I need an extra hour.
Love it.
So when we were rewatching these movies, one thing that really happened for us was we noticed, we're like, Infinity War happens, the blip happens, and all of the male leaders, like Hulk goes off and goes to therapy. Iron Man starts a family. Captain America starts doing kind of mental health work with veterans. Thor becomes Fat Thor, I guess. So all the male leaders, all the male leaders go off. They're all like too depressed to handle everything. And who does it fall to manage everything? It's Black Widow. Black Widow is the one that is running the Avengers for that like 5-year blip. And this actually embodies a lot of interesting things that we see in leadership research. Number one, many times when women are given leadership roles, they're given leadership roles in bad situations. This is called the glass cliff. You might have heard about the glass ceiling, where women and minorities can't make it past a particular level. But many times when women especially are given leadership roles, they're given roles where, hey, things are bad. I guess we're going to hire a woman to do this leadership now. And so it's really interesting to see between Infinity War and Endgame, she's running things. Things are not great, but they're also not terrible. And she just doesn't have all the support from all the male leaders that were there, all the male members of the Avengers. And so it's really interesting. Gordon and I were talking about this. We're like, hey, Black Widow might be a really great leader in this. We see, we see great leaders in, Guardians of the Galaxy. Gamora has a lot of good ideas. She's able to put things forward very, very well. We know that in the Ant-Man movies, Hope Van Dyne is able to influence a lot of things that happen with her father, with Scott, and she does a great job. But we really, we were very surprised to find out, Black Widow, during this time period where we're not getting a lot of movies, she's showing some real leadership. She's really leading the superhero community in a way. And the sad part is that once all the guys get back, once, Ant-Man comes back and says, hey, I've got a solution to bring everybody back, she's back to being a regular member of the Avengers.
She's back to being a secretary like Wonder Woman was back with the JSA, right? One of the most powerful members relegated to secretaryhood.
That's right. And so we see that. So this is one of the things that, you can identify all sorts of different leaders in the MCU. I think that's also what made the Marvel Cinematic Universe so potent and so popular, is that people can see themselves in it. It's a franchise where eventually you're seeing somebody that looks like you in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, which is very exciting.
Now, I'm a team leader.
Mm-hmm.
I got a wonderful team, not just one, but two, Comic Crusaders and Undercover Capes. Now, you have a particular chapter, your 12th chapter, Nick Fury, Professor X, Magneto, being looked at as examples of how leaders go about recruiting and selecting members. So how do you do that? Because again, here, basically we're advised on how we select team because it's based on
Mhm.
goals.
Mhm.
Is that true? Is it based on our goals, or how am I selecting the team? How do
Mhm.
you see it within the MCU?
So, you know, Professor X is probably the one who selects teams in the the most haphazard way. He's really just recruiting mutants, and then out of that group of mutants, he's saying, "Well, you have these mutant powers. Here's a mission that you can go on that matches those mutant abilities." And that's the thing. If you have a certain type of work, and you're looking for a particular type of person to do that work, then that's how you really want to recruit and select people. One way that you can actually send out a message about who you're recruiting is by having a strong brand image and
Mm,
really having an idea of who fits in with the kind of work style that your team is working on. So if you're part of a group or team that has a very set schedule, you need people there at a particular time from 9 to 5, and things are very stable. Those are the type of people you want. The people that are going to be consistent, that are going to be showing up at particular time periods. If you need really creative people that may not be on a traditional 9 to 5 schedule or something like that, those are the types of people you really want. What we really want to do is we want to identify people who are going to be a part of the team based on the skills that they have and what they're bringing to the team, right? In the same way that Nick Fury, he knows he needs people to defend Earth. He starts with he thinks Iron Man might be a good fit. He tries to reach out to him, but he actually rejects Tony at one point because he realizes that Tony is not a great team player. He is too much into himself. He's like, nah, he's not really going to work. He
yeah.
recruits Cap because he knows Cap has worked with teams before. He knows people respect Captain America quite a bit, and he has other people on the team that already know how to be
Uh,
team members, like Hawkeye
and
and
Cap is selfless as well. That's another
yeah,
thing I think when it comes
yeah,
to Cap's leadership and everybody. He's a very self. It's not about him. It's about
yeah,
us.
mm,
Kind of like my approach. It ain't about
yep,
me, people. It's
mhm,
about us as a whole succeeding. That's why we shout out my team, kiddo.
yeah. Of course, and it's good that you're giving shout outs to the team. They need to be recognized in order to, to really feel like they're members of that team,
But
right?
they're more than
Mhm,
members. I
mhm,
always say we're more than that. We are a family because
mhm,
we take care of each other. We support
mhm,
one another. We speak to one another
mhm.
outside of comics.
That's
We
great.
connect on more than just that. So I think
Mhm,
that's also a part, a great
mhm,
part of owning something and
mhm.
leading
Okay.
by just building a family feel environment.
Mhm.
Everybody
Uh,
feels welcome. Everybody
uh,
feels loved. Everybody feels
mhm.
appreciated.
Th- That's great. Yeah, that's what you really want to see. Do you take them out for shawarma after defeating the Chitauri?
Let me tell you, I wish we would get together, all of
Uh,
us, but we're so scattered across the world. I
uh,
mean, I got team members in the UK,
uh,
Australia,
mhm,
Germany, West Coast, down south, up
mhm.
north, the central US.
Wow.
It's like, okay, so hopefully
Mhm.
one day there could be a real life Crusader Con. 'Cause I'm gonna do a
Uh,
virtual con, and I want you back side
okay.
to
Sure.
talk more about this along with some comic people because
Mhm,
this is so great. I love this whole topic because
mhm,
leadership is important. I mean, look at this wonderful community we have. There's
mhm,
some bad seeds out there that show divisiveness, but then there's some great seeds out there that are about
mhm,
togetherness. So let's follow the leaders,
mhm,
that are trying to promote the best and most positive things for us,
mhm.
like the big homie Sai here, because he's killing it. I mean, you have this wonderful book available now, right now, on Amazon. Let me tease you again. Look, right there, folks. You go to tinyurl.com/Amazon MCU. All right. You got to pick this up. All right. Now, I promise we're gonna have to talk about this. Let me bring this up, because you, not just an author, but you also an entrepreneur.
Yeah. Yep.
Talk to me. What is talentmetrics.io? Workplace science, people analytics, driving your
Mhm,
business, consultations, a consulting firm.
mhm.
Kiddo, oh snap. Woo! I love it. Talk to me.
Th-
What is this
Thank
about?
you. Yeah. So, not only am I a professor, but one thing that a lot of industrial organizational psychologists do is we also consult with organizations. As you can see on the screen, there, these are some of the companies that we've worked with.
Mm.
Some giant faceless corporations like IBM to weirdly enough sports teams.
Yeah,
My
even
business
Mary
partner,
Kay, bro.
Mary
Geez, look
Kay,
at
yeah,
that.
a little bit.
Wepa.
Yeah. little bit of work with them. So
Smile.
we
Nice.
end up working with a lot of organizations, and what we end up doing is basically three big buckets. We do training and development. So I facilitate training around diversity, equity, inclusion, and a few other topics. I also do some executive coaching. So I meet with leaders and help guide them through some challenging and difficult times that they might be facing. And then the
Mm.
last bucket is we do what's called people analytics, where we take data that organizations have about their workforce and we try to relate that to business outcomes. So things like sales, or we try to help organizations create pre-hire assessments so that they can hire the right people for particular jobs.
Whoa, how do
Yeah.
you even
So.
put all this together, kiddo? Okay, wait, especially that pre-hire assessment. I mean,
Mhm.
I needed this maybe a few years ago when some people that I'll say it, man. When comics gators were trying to break into CC, but we don't
Mhm.
support that because we're about comics are for everyone, period.
Mhm.
And if you have any type of divisiveness, we're not with you.
Mhm.
So how do you even create something like that, an assessment, if you will, a pre-assessment?
Sure. So some pre-assessments are some of the more basic things are just coming up with what are called structured interviews. So structured interviews are questions that are related to the job,
Okay.
asking around very specific skills. That's one of the key things that we look at when we're looking to hire people is we want to know whether or not they can actually do the job, and then we try to figure out whether or not they're going to be a good fit. Some
Ah.
of that might also be using like a questionnaire or a test. So sometimes you can develop a skills assessment
Oh, so
where
you were responsible for all those tests I was taking?
probably,
And when I
yeah.
was looking for work, a couple of, I mean, though, I killed every one of them.
Mhm,
And it was one of the first times in my professional, career,
mhm,
outside of this stuff,
mhm,
that I had like a handful of offers. And I was like,
mhm,
okay, I get to choose my own path for the first time.
mhm,
I never had that opportunity, kiddo,
mhm,
like to have so many offers. And it
mhm,
was based on those tests. And I guess I
mhm.
smashed each and every one of them.
Yeah. So yeah, then if they're designed well, if they're designed effectively, you can actually figure out who might make a good team member. Who might be a good fit for your organization. A lot of that also has to do with one of the things we do with organizations. We also help them recruit. Some of that has to do with like connecting with students as they're graduating from either college or graduate
Oh,
school. Some of that
okay.
is about developing relationships with organizations. So if you're an engineering company, you're looking to hire more diverse engineers, connecting with an organization of Black engineers, connecting with an organization of female engineers. That could be a way to kind of improve that pipeline. So there's those are some of the things that we've worked on and some of the things we're able
Oof.
to do. We also do what are called employee engagement surveys. So if you want to know how your workforce is feeling, how they're, how motivated they are at a given time, or what their experience has been, especially during COVID, that was one thing that we were doing quite a bit to find out how how employees were feeling
Yeah.
with all the change.
You know what? We know how Elon feels about this time. He ain't happy. Get your asses back to the office. What you talking about?
I actually wonder how many people are going to continue with Tesla if he pushes that very hard, because the expectations have really changed about work from home.
Well,
Work
guess
from
what?
home,
Guess what? If
yeah.
if the job does not require you to
Mhm.
be there and you could
Yep.
do stuff remotely,
Yep.
if it's not a physical job, what's the problem?
Yeah.
I'm connected to your VPN, Elon. What's the problem, son?
Yep.
For real, I don't get it.
Yeah.
And you know what? Help us save money. Do you not
Yep.
see that rents are going up, food is going up, and gas is ridiculous?
Yep.
And it's like I don't see these jobs saying, okay, come to the job and I'll pay half your gas on top of it because it's so
Yep.
expensive now. If they did that, maybe people feel incentivized, but you
Yeah.
gotta incentivize us. You
Yeah.
guys, companies have now seen people can work from home
Mhm.
because not everyone is irresponsible. You know
Mhm.
what I mean?
Yeah, and that really changes the mindset of it used to be, oh, we need 40 hours from you. And now I think
No,
the mindset might be shifting to, well, we need this work product. If you
my
can get it
dude,
done in
I
under 40.
I've seen 4-day work weeks really
Yeah.
become a thing.
Yeah.
Where families, they put in their time 4 days in the week. done. You know, they
Yep.
rocked out. They contributed to the
Mhm.
greatness and overall contribution to the company, and they
Mhm.
have time for themselves and their family. That
Yeah.
work-life balance, as we mentioned earlier,
Yeah.
is very key.
Absolutely.
I had the 4-day work week, and now I
Mhm.
don't. But guess what? I got such amazing hours that it's like, yo, I don't need the 4-day work week based on the hours I got. I work from
Mhm.
6 a.m. to 2 p.m. And then you see that an hour before we even met, I was already
Mhm.
off work getting ready for you. It's like,
Yeah.
okay. And then, my spouse is working so wonderful. And then by the time I finish, she finished, we good. And there goes family time. You see,
There we go.
folks, time management, figure it
Yeah.
out.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And if you're lucky enough to be able to do that, I think that attitude has changed a lot. I think some companies are pushing back on that because they've invested heavily in real estate and office space. And
But
so they
how
may want
about
to,
companies save that effing money,
yeah.
save that rent money,
Mhm.
save that, buying furniture and equipment? You don't need to.
Yeah.
You can save money. I
Yeah.
mean, working from home is cost effective for any company. Maybe
Mhm.
have a warehouse if you are a company that ships stuff.
Of course. Yeah.
Or even then, you could be smart enough, get a
Mhm.
secure stocking location to house your shit,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
And
Yep.
basically, a la carte. Hey, okay, bet. All right, this stocking location, you got this. Send it out for me.
Yep.
Thank you. I mean, nowadays, think smart. Don't work too hard. Think smart.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, that absolutely. What is it? Scrooge McDuck and DuckTales used to say, work smarter, not harder, right?
Yeah, and
Yeah.
it's a fact. He was swimming in them coins. I mean, he must have some rough skin though, because you know, yeah, for
It's the
you to just
feathers.
dive in like that, bro,
Yep.
us humans will be turned into trash if we fell.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
I dreamt about doing that as a kid, and then I remember
You and
putting
me
my
both, bro.
hand into a like just a jar of pennies, and it hurts.
Yeah.
It's
Oh,
like,
you did that too. When you're like, yo, let me see
yeah,
something. I was like, oh, damn. Wait a
yeah, and
minute.
it did not feel good. I was like, oh, that's
You can't swim in money. Screech
no.
McDuck, you're a liar.
Yep.
Unless it was dollar bills, and I mean, we were talking something different.
Then you got to worry about paper cuts. So that's
Oh
another
my
thing.
God! That would be such a horrible, horror movie. Someone
Yeah.
dives into a bit of money, and as they're swimming, they're just getting sliced everywhere and just
Yep.
bleed to death in the money. They drown in money, literally. That's
That's like a
funny.
parable waiting to happen. There we go.
Size, that's gonna be your next book now.
No,
the many ways to die.
it's funny you
Diving.
mentioned that because Gordon and I are working on another book about leadership.
Oh,
This
another leadership.
time,
Ooh.
yeah, this one about Avatar: The Last Airbender. So
What?
we're big Avatar: The Last Airbender fans, and so we see a lot of leadership stuff in there.
What? Get out.
Yep,
So you're
yep,
gonna turn this into another lesson of
yep,
leadership within that. Because again, what you did with the Marvel stuff, what you guys, have
mhm,
done with the Marvel stuff is dope. Because again, you didn't focus on any one movie, but as a
mhm,
whole, and now each movie is different. Again,
yep,
individuals, teams, and so
mhm,
forth, country
yep,
leaders. I mean, you got everything. You
mhm.
guys murdered this. I think it's an
Thank you.
absolutely entertaining read. Right? And when did this baby drop?
It dropped today, actually.
Oh
Yeah,
snap,
it dropped
folks! You hear
today.
that?
So
I'm telling you to get it on the day it dropped. Get it.
yep,
First prints available today, folks. First
yep,
prints.
yep.
Now, Sai, are you or Gordon gonna be doing any type of conventions where we could meet you and get a signed copy or book signings anywhere?
We don't have any book signings or conventions set up just yet, but I'll let you know if that
You need
happens.
to.
I'm gonna try to submit something to New York City Comic Con. We'll see if they'll
Woo!
take it. That's like pie in the sky stuff, but there's some local cons. Before I had the book, I did a couple of sessions at Eternal Con in Long Island.
Oh, you did
But
Eternal. I know Eternal. Nice.
oh yeah,
Great.
I'm
Great.
this is 2018 or 2019, pre-pandemic. So
Yeah.
I'm hoping to get to some local cons at some point, but
Okay, well, we
haven't had a
need you to
chance to
show
yet.
up. We need you to show up. We need you to bring a whole bunch of copies of this beautiful book. I mean, look at that. Who did the cover on this?
So I actually don't know. The publishing company has a graphic designer, and I don't know who it is, but they did a great job. They
They
kind of
did.
took I don't know if you remember in the first Avengers movie, they have that moment where they turn
The
the
circle
camera,
scene,
the
yeah.
circle scene. Yeah, so I think that's built off of that. So
It's gorgeous cover. I definitely need this book in my life and on my shelf. 'Cause my shelf looks empty because I'm in the process of packing and I'm gonna be moving soon. But
I understand.
hopefully, the next time you come on, you're
Mhm.
gonna see my pretty library,
That's great.
and your book will be there. Hopefully, I need a signed
Awesome.
copy, Si. All right.
I'll have to, I gotta find a way to sign one for you. And send it your way. That so yeah, definitely. Where are you moving to? Staying in
I
Orlando
don't really
or
know. We're staying in Florida for sure.
okay,
Probably an hour or two out from
okay,
here because rents are ridiculous, just like every part of the country.
okay. Yeah, my
Uh,
my business partner lives in Winter Garden, I want to say, or
oh, Winter Park.
Winter Park. Yeah,
Guess
which is
what?
weird because why does Florida have a winter park?
But what's funny is I am like 2 minutes from
Oh,
Winter
that's
Park.
funny.
I'm in Alafaya Trail, Waterford Lakes.
Oh,
Winter
okay.
Park is right
Yeah.
there. My daughter went to Full Sail University. That's where she graduated from
Oh,
this year.
okay. Oh,
Yeah, she
congrats
kicked.
to her. That's awesome.
Yeah, so again, winning everywhere as a
Mm,
family, which is
that's
what's
great.
great. Support your kids.
Yeah.
Push them on whatever it is that they want to do,
Mm,
not what you want them to do. Um, which is key. But bro, you're amazing. Can you give us one last piece of advice here
mhm.
based on your journey, your creative journey, your fandom journey, and putting this amazing book together and putting it out today? I mean, nigga, you're a daddy, kiddo. Hey, happy Daddy's Day,
Yeah,
kid.
yeah. Who knew somebody would let me, have a kid with them? Who would have thought?
Hey, look at that.
But I would say that one thing I've learned that I think is important, and I think this also relates to leadership, is if you if you put good stuff out there, I think you'll get good stuff back, and that includes like whatever you do on social media, that whatever you do in your work life. If you're putting good things out there and you're trying to be honest and forthright, and you're following that passion, I think that's really important to kind of have that. If you're putting that good stuff out there, whether it's with your team, whether it's with people that you work with, whether it's with customers, I think it comes back even better than before. So as long as we're keeping, we're putting good stuff out there, especially I'm seeing that more with younger fandom. I know we like to crap on fandom a lot as like being really, full of toxic folks, but we're really lucky. Fandom now is in a better place than
It
I think
is.
it's been in a long
Listen,
time.
a lot
So
of fans enjoy what they enjoy.
mm,
Not everybody loves that
mm,
toxic type messaging that happens sometimes in the social
mm,
world. Me, I
mm,
stay away from it completely
yeah.
myself. Like, if you want to bring that, I'm gonna just easily block you. I don't want no
Mhm,
part of it. Um, but it's true. A lot of kids are just accepting of each other's fandoms,
mhm,
as we all should be.
yeah.
Who cares if you don't like it? Convince me why I should like it, and if you can't, it's okay. I'm not gonna trash it anyway. Just not for me. For now.
Yeah.
For now. There's a lot of things. I wasn't a big Star Wars fan as a kid, but then Rogue One came out, and
Mhm,
I turned around all of a sudden. Even my wife to
mhm.
this day says, "I thought you didn't like Star Wars," and then I answer, "Watch Rogue One."
Mhm.
I'm not gonna watch it. Oh well, then then you're not gonna understand why the hell I fell in love now.
There we go.
All
Yeah, I
right.
mean, there's something for everybody, and that like growing up when I did in early '80s through the '90s. That change is really important. I think that's made a huge difference, and I think that's why there's so much geek culture now out there, is because it does allow people to join in. It does give everybody an opportunity to be a part of it, and there's nothing better than that. That's what conventions are about. That's
Agreed.
what you know.
Bro, this is what I'm saying, bro. People look at social media as, oh, this is the platform where people discuss comics. No, it's not. It's conventions. Go to a convention, and all you're going to see is 150% love and positivity
Mhm.
from every single person there. So I don't understand. Like, people want to hide behind the social media thing. I mean,
Mhm.
yes, like, these people just trying to, I guess, make up for something else. But the community as a whole is really positive.
Yeah.
I've seen it. I've been a witness, from both sides, as a fan and as a booth person.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
it's like, okay, and as a press person. So I've seen this from three angles, actually.
Wow.
in the convention. So it's like it's a beautiful thing, and let's just keep being positive. Just keep supporting what we love.
Yeah.
And if you don't like something, that's okay. You don't need to bash it. Just say it's not for you.
Yep.
That's it. Move on. But you know what is for you? Being a great leader. And this is why you need a book like what Gordon and Cy have done here with Leaders Assemble. Available now on Amazon. Let me show you again. Go to tinyurl.com/Amazon MCU. All right. And pick up this book today. It just dropped. So you're getting that first print. And then when he's at the local convention one of these days, make sure to take that baby and get that nice signature, you know, and hold this, because it's going to be a very important book, not just a fun book that helps explore, you know, the MCU probably a lot different than you thought it. But at the same time, you're going to gain some valuable knowledge, some valuable insight, and again, that different take on this fandom. So, Sai, you know, again, wonderful job to both you and Gordon.
Thank you
for creating this. I really can't wait to read the full thing. How many pages is this baby?
I want to say a little under like 156.
That's nothing. That's nothing.
Not too many pages. So, but packed full of fun stuff. Packed full of a lot
That's
of tips.
what's key. You know, the tips and the fun stuff, and you know, and drawing from those examples of the amazing characters within the MCU and how they could even teach you to be a better leader within these wonderful stories that we've all grown to love. Thank you, Marvel, for doing what you do as well. That allowed you to inspire Cy and Gordon to create such a beautiful book that's available now. And of course, like if you're a business out there looking to really get insight into your workforce, business, culture, everything, bro, right there. I need you guys to go to talentmetrics.io. Talent, TALENT, metrics, METRICS.io, the letter IO, folks. Very simple. Go to that website, see everything that Cy and his company have to offer you, especially if you are a business owner. Nowadays, we need this. We need to gauge everyone because there's so many things going on, and make sure that your workforce is okay. You know, make sure that they're happy, because the happier the workforce, the better your business is going to look. And of course, if you want to just give a shout out to Cy and say, I love your book, I need you to follow him on Twitter at IO Cy, SY, Islam, ISLAM. Yes, all right? Follow the big homie. Tell him Comic Crew sent you, you know, and show him the love, buy the book, and the support. Bro, you've been an amazing guest. Thank you for what you've done. Thank you for your time. This book is going to be number one hit in no time. I know there is. I know it is, all right? So don't you worry about that. Now, folks, you know what to do, right? Follow comiccrusaders.com, everywhere, undercovercapes.com. Check out the channels. We got Outside the Panels dropping shows every week. Like the rain, you know, every week he dropping something. Johnny Hughes, The Machine for Real. You know, we got obviously the Definitive Crusade, No Prize Podcast. We got so many shows, folks. I can't even name them all. It's just, we have an insane plethora of content from so many people from all over the world. And we're all here to celebrate this beautiful, beautiful fandom we have. You know, so keep it positive, keep it real. I'm your boy Omega with the amazing Cy Islam. Hasta la próxima, mi gente. Wepa! Thank you for listening to the Comic Crusaders Podcast. If you like the content, please subscribe and turn on notifications. Also, please visit comiccrusaders.com and our extended podcast family over at undercovercapes.com. And also, make sure to download the Comic Crusaders app on the Google Play Store today.